Hi, this is Toby, and today I'll be quickly explaining when you can tell when to water your cacti in spring. Now, I have grown cacti for many years, and during winter I'm one of those people that prefer to keep them completely dry, because if you keep your cacti completely dry over winter, they can actually tolerate some decently cold temperature. No frost, that is, but very close temperatures to freezing. I find that this season it's gone down to around 2 degrees before, and because I kept the cacti dry, none of them have really suffered. Obviously not the tropical cacti like the ubomanias and the mellow cacti, they were indoors, but all the other ones, they seem to not suffer if you keep them dry over winter. So that begs the question, when can I water my cacti again in spring? Now, with most cacti, they will actually break dormancy before you actually water them, as long as the temperature kind of goes up. You see, today the temperature is not too high. There were some days where the temperatures went up to around 35 degrees in the morning when the sun hit the greenhouse, and that's kind of normal in spring. I know temperatures fluctuate a lot. You kind of want to choose a period where the temperature isn't too cold at night, because I know sometimes at night in spring can get quite cold. But if you can choose a period where the night isn't too cold and you know it's going to be sunny, you're safe to water your cacti as long as they break dormancy. And I will show you an example of some of them breaking dormancy. The most obvious example is if they start to produce buds. You can see on this Cactus glaucescens, it's starting to produce buds. My Gymnoclysum baldianum is starting to produce buds. That's a very clear sign it's breaking dormancy. Echinocereus over there with buds. Now, another way you can tell is if it starts growing new spines. You can see even my Astrophytum Capricorn here, although it's producing new buds, it's also producing new spines. So that kind of shows that your cacti is waking up, and it does need a bit of a water. Now, you don't want to be watering every week initially, because the temperature is still quite cold and evaporation rates are not that high. But you can increase the watering frequency as the temperature goes up. So I'm going to water my cacti today. It is going to be quite hot in 2 days time, so I know the water will dry up. I like to water in the afternoon, purely because if your cacti has a wet body and the sun hits it, it's most likely going to scald it. And that's not good, because it will leave an ugly mark which could eventually get fungal infections. So as a preference, I've always watered my cacti in the afternoon when there's no direct sun, so that even if I do get a bit of water on the skin of the cactus or the epidermis, it won't do too much damage, because it will be dry by morning when the sun hits them. So I'm going to get to watering my cacti and show you how I actually do it. Previously, I did use quite a large watering can, but I find that it does wash the soil away a bit. So you do want to use something slightly finer. Now, there are different ways you can water your cacti. I know there's bottom watering and top watering. Personally, I've never watered my cacti from the bottom. You can water your cacti from the bottom if you want to, because for some cacti like the Astrophytums, and I know some Areocarpus with the little wool, if you do add some stuff into your water, it could potentially stain that. But because I don't add a lot to my water, I usually don't add anything to my water, except for sometimes the systemic fungicide. I don't need to worry about staining my plants. You can see all of my Astrophytums, they're clean. So let me just pick a random plant to water. I think we'll start with this Echinopsis subdenudata. I'm going to just use my watering can. See, I already got some on the epidermis, it doesn't matter. I'm going to water it thoroughly. Every time when you water your cacti, you want to water it thoroughly. I know some people think cacti don't need a lot of water. That is true, but one tip I like to give people is, even though it doesn't need a lot of water, just reduce the watering frequency, but each time you water, make sure you fully soak it. I know some people like to give it 1 or 2 drops of water a day. Don't do that, because the plant's not really going to absorb it, and you will find that your plant isn't going to be doing that well. Whereas if you wait for your soil to pretty much dry out fully and water it, you will get a lot better results. So I'm going to quickly go over all of these plants and show you what they look like when I've watered them. So I have just watered my plants. You can see I've drenched them. I did give them a bit of systemic fungicide as well, but the plants will enjoy it. You can see again a lot of them are a bit shriveled. I know I did get some water on the bodies of the plant. Again, because it's in the afternoon, there's no sun shining on it, it won't do any damage. It will dry out by tomorrow morning. And one thing I should note is that if your plants in the corner of anywhere, like for example in the corner of this greenhouse, when you're watering it, make sure you cover the soil fully. So let's just use any plant as an example. For example, I'm watering this little gymnoclisium. Don't only water a corner, because you're going to end up only having a section of the soil being wet and all the roots are going to grow to that section while all the roots on the other end aren't going to grow. So when you're watering, make sure you water your plants quite evenly as well, is what I'm trying to say. But you know me, I will show you an update of these plants when they get a bit plumper. But let's just take a look around, take a look at some of these plants. Keep your eyes on some of the ones that are quite shriveled. Again, I didn't water all of my plants because some of the ones that can tolerate a bit more dryness, such as this little Ariocarpus, I'm going to keep a lot drier. But just take a look at the plants. You will notice a difference within a few days. When they do start to get active, they do absorb water quite quickly. But yeah. So it's been a few days after I've watered it. You can see at least the surface, most of the water has dried up, and a lot of the plants are looking a lot more plump. Let me just show you around again. Try and get my shadow out of the way. I know it's a bit shady here. But a lot of the plants have plumped up. You can see the growing tips are a lot more greener. Buds are starting to form. Now I will just talk about a bit more important things before I end the video. And the first of it is that sometimes when you water your plants, they may not plump up immediately. If I show you this Ichido series here, it's plumped up a bit, but not a whole lot. Some people do get a bit scared and they start just filling it with water every day. Don't do that. You will kill your plant. It will rot it out. Sometimes initially it does take a bit of time for your plants to actually wake up and absorb water. So don't water it that frequently. And that begs the question, when do I water it next? Initially, when they're just waking up, you don't want to be watering very frequently at around once a week. They're not too active yet, and the weather isn't that hot, so you don't really need to water them that often. I find that at least in spring, I usually water around once every 2 or 3 weeks to start with, when the weather is still cool, especially at night, because sometimes night temperatures can go quite low and they don't want to be wet when it's that cold. So I would wait a few weeks before I water them again. And the last thing I want to say is that make sure your soil is well drained and there's holes at the bottom of your pot. I think that goes without saying, but make sure you have well drained soil. All of my soil that I used here is really well drained, so the water doesn't last very long in there, and that reduces the chance of you rotting the plant out. But I think that's kind of it for this video. There isn't really much else to talk about, maybe except that after I've given my plants some water, you can see sometimes the color does change a bit on the plants. That's just it being a lot more healthy, because beforehand, when it's been dried for a few months, they can get a bit stressed, especially on some of the gymnoclisiums. The color can go a bit dark, but you'll notice when your plant starts to wake up, it will go a lot more green. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you got something out of this quick video on watering your cacti in spring after they just had their winter's rest. But anyways, thanks for watching this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below and I will answer them. But anyways, thanks for watching this video and I'll see you next one. Bye.